Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the I Will Aim podcast. Our topic for today is demystified retirement with Bob Laura. Get ready to learn the importance of retirement planning as you plan your future. Welcome, Bob. How are you doing today?
Great. Well, excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Can you do a quick intro about yourself?
Oh my gosh, hard questions. Basically, I'm a retirement nerd. It's what I spend all my time doing, and really more so focused on the psychology. Before I got into financial services, I was a social worker. Then I got into financial service. Been doing that for 25 years, and I really realized that there's plenty of people with plenty of money to retire, but there are just some really big gaps on the psychology, especially for couples making that transition together. And so I've really committed the last 16 years to focusing on how do we help people with the non-financial pieces like replace your work identity, fill your time, and we do that with obviously training, articles, workbooks, assessments, all that fun stuff. So there's a quick route for you.
Well, thank you for the quick intro. So let's deep dive in. Bob, retirement is a major life transition. As far as retiring, a lot of people struggle to balance between rest and productivity because they came from working full time and now all of a sudden they're retiring. How do you help them find that balance of you rest or you work, like you do something? How do you do that? It's a complex problem.
Well,
This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. As spring approaches, I've noticed that my anxiety tends to increase during this time. The longer days and the pressure to be more active can be overwhelming. I often find myself asking questions like, why do I feel anxious every time they don't text me back? And why do all our conversations turn into argument? Those thoughts can be consuming, making it challenging to enjoy the season's renewal. It's during this time that seeking support becomes essential. That's where BetterHelp comes in. They can connect you with a therapist to help you navigate this feeling. The majority of BetterHelp members seek support for anxiety, and 69% report improved anxiety symptoms after 6 weeks of therapy. Getting started is simple. Fill out a questionnaire and be matched with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. If it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at no extra cost. With 7,000 reviews and a 4.3-star rating on Trusted Pilot, it's a platform you can trust. Let BetterHelp help you rule your anxiety so it doesn't rule you. Click on the link below in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Will Lukang and get 10% off your first month of therapy.
this is what I think gets really missed by a lot of people. It really depends on your personality. And I think too, I think people sometimes assume they're going to be a different person in retirement, that somehow this type A motivated, driven person who's going to become CEO or do these, partner at the firm or whatever they're going to do is all of a sudden going to be super chill and relaxed and not, and it's just not true. And same thing, someone who is super chill and relaxed can be too super chill and relaxed where they're doing nothing. And so I think you really have to evaluate your personality and your preferences. If you're a busybody and you like to do things, you've got to schedule that stuff in. And it's really important to, first we create our habits and habits create us, right? Stephen
Yes.
Covey. And so it's about developing the routine right away. And so you don't, when you retire, yes, you can take a couple weeks off or maybe go on a vacation, but you need to start going to the gym. You need to start allocating specific time for hobbies, friends, and kids. And so if you start to lay out some structure, you can adjust it. And then it is just, I think mindset is really important because I think all of us can have a growth or a fixed mindset, obviously another popular topic, but and I think as we get older, I get sick of technology. Like I hate QR codes. I have a very fixed mindset. I'm like, I don't want to use my phone to go do, but it's reality and I have to do
Yeah.
it. And I think the other really important thing too is keeping up with technology. I know some of your people are going to stop watching just because I said that, but it's really, I mean, I'm 53. I've got, young adults as kids and we're going to have grandkids. And if I want to connect with them, it's not on Facebook. They think like I'm like, oh, did you see this on Facebook? They're like, Dad, no one's on Facebook. I'm like, on Instagram or TikTok, what so I think it's keeping up with technology, helps them kind of balance those pieces. But it is really appealing to your looking at your personality and preferences and being mindful of that and leveraging that's really important.
Those questions around couple who's retiring. If the husband or spouse approach you to talk about retirement planning, what's your approach in making sure, or do you include both of them, or do one of them go and plan with you? How do you approach that whole complex,
So I
setup?
think yeah, it can be tricky on the surface, but what we really have to realize is that when you're working with a couple, everything is not going to be agreed upon, and it's almost there's you got to just have a starting point. And again, you know about this assessment. We've got the couples assessment that people can use,
Yep.
and really when we designed it, it was just really about, have you thought about it, talked about it, and do you agree on it? And it's not to pick fights for couples, but this happens a lot. My wife, but herself, like, I don't know why she can't read my mind and figure this stuff out, but especially the longer you've been together, you kind of
Yep.
assume you know what the other person wants or is thinking. And so it is just finding some middle ground. And the problem with couples is when they don't talk about it, because you may not really see some things coming. I had a client who they had planned for 10 years that in the year that they were going to retire, they were going to take a sailing trip around the globe. That was set in stone 10 years ago, and that was their focus when they retired. Well, a grandbaby came along right around that same time. So the wife was like, heck no, I'm not going. I want to be here with this grandbaby. So I think it's really about not having things set in stone that, like, we're moving down south or we're moving out west or we're doing this, but really having the conversation 2 to 3 years before you get there, understanding age differences, because my wife is 4 years younger than me. She's more mature, but she's younger. So what does that mean? Like when I'm 64 and she's 60, does that mean I retire and she doesn't? Or even vice versa, if your wife or your spouse is older, what if they want to keep working? And I think, again, stereotypical in a traditional relationship, if a spouse stayed home to take care of kids, she may have been 5 or 10 years out of the workplace, but now she's really just starting to pick up her momentum and enjoying her career. And so
Yeah.
you've got to find some middle ground. And I think what's also important is retirement isn't a do or die decision. You don't have to get it perfect. You can dabble, you can step in and step out. There's so many ways to be creative with it. But again, I think everyone's like, I'm not going to have money. How much do I have saved? And it's like, stop, work through it, and if you can get a professional to help you, it's even better.
Well, thank you for sharing that. What's your advice for someone who's just beginning to think about retirement?
So I tell people all the time, like, start thinking about your side hustle. So I'm writing an article about this, so everyone gets the first inside scoop here. And
Thank
this is
you.
what I'm really talking about with Gen X. So what I've really realized with baby boomers, that kind of one of the mistakes, and it's not I say mistake, but it's not really their mistake because they're really the first generation to kind of
Mm.
get there, is they waited until they retire to figure out what's next. It's kind of like, I made it. Now, okay, what do I do now? And I'm really encouraging my, Gen X clients when they're 3, 5, or 7 years away, even if you have an inkling of something that you want to do, start it. If it's consulting, if you want to own a used bookstore, if you want to start a doggy daycare business, just start it and just start telling people about it. You may not even have a client related to that in the first year, or you may just have one, but you're slowly building momentum and you're testing this idea out. You don't want to wait to your first full year of retirement. You got 24/7 now to figure it out, but businesses take time. And so I really encourage people to start living the lifestyle. And it's the same thing even with moving. Don't move until you've really practiced it for a couple times. And so if you think you want to, snowbird in Florida, go down there in January and February. Everyone's down there. It's not, like it is. busy, so make sure you know what you're getting into. And so I think by being proactive about it, you're in a much better position.
I love the concept of being proactive about it and also practicing. Like, I totally agree with you. Everyone's going down south, and you have never gone down there. Right when you retire, you go down. It's like, oh, every place is packed, like so busy. That's a bad moment to realize that.
Well,
Oh, I should have thought about.
and I think too, like just with Florida and the hurricanes, and hey, let's take our RV down there, but so is everyone else. So it's getting more and more expensive, and so just again, I think that people have these thoughts in here, but then they don't go test them. So just go test them, see what's out there, and see what works for you.
Thank you. We talk a lot about retirement. We kind of peel the onion about how people should think about retirement, and talk about misconception. If there are three takeaway from today's session, what would those be?
No fair asking hard questions. Well, I think I got 25 takeaways for people.
25.
Well, again, what I think is really important is just understanding how significant the transition is. It's one of the top 10 most stressful life events. And so it's stressful because so many things can be coming at you at once that you end up really struggling to balance your priorities. And so realize that it's extremely stressful and you're going to get hit from multiple angles. And so the better prepared you are, the better it's going to be. Support is critical, but support, again, based on your personality. You will hear across the board that one of the most important things to a successful transition is your social network. But that
Yes.
means different things to an extrovert and an introvert. So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to have 30 friends, because if you're introverted and you have three close friends, great. But if you're extroverted and you're really not spending time with your social network to build it, then you're going to struggle. And so I think it's really important to start assessing, important things like that. And then really at the end of the day, there's a big difference today compared to say 20 years ago between the haves and the have-nots, right? Like 20 years ago, the haves were people with money. Well, now the haves are people with their health.
Yep.
And that's really, really important. And again, I'm not saying you have to go to the gym 5 days a week, work out, and be a TikTok model. Nope. It's the functional fitness, right? Can you do little things? Can you roll in the grass with the kids or the grandkids? Can you a walk? Can you go on a vacation where you may be standing on a bus or an event for a couple hours? And so really just thinking through those pieces are really important. But again, I'll peel this back to really focus on who you are and what's important to you. Three of the questions I like to ask people is, especially when it comes to retirement, is because we often get there by following someone else's rules. So I like to ask people, whose rules are you following? Why are you following them? And what would happen if you changed them? And it's a great exercise to get you out of that autopilot hamster wheel process, because we're all thinking, well, I got to get to retirement. I got to have 1 million or 2 million saved. I got to follow the 4% rule. You don't. You don't have to do any of that. So stop following everyone else's ideas. Get comfortable with yours. Try them out and take your time.
Thank you for your time, Bob. I really appreciate you. Can you share with my audience how do they reach you if they
Yeah.
want
So the
if they
easiest
want to
thing.
reach out to you or attend one of your events?
Yeah, so if you just search Robert Laura, all my stuff will come up. But Certified Professional Retirement Coach is the designation that we offer. Retirement Coaches Association, if you're interested in this, kind of modernizing retirement and being part of the group that's really changing the industry like you. We've got research, we've got symposiums and conferences. And so check those pieces out. And then my new book at Amazon is Retirement Intelligence. It's 100 pages. It's
Do you have the
14.5.
book with you? Do you have the book with you?
I do have it over.
Yes,
Slides
show it on the screen.
um, sorry, I don't usually keep my. But yeah, it just looks like this. But
There you
it's
go.
really, it's 100 pages. It's big print. And again, it's really my most important work, and it captures a lot of the, some of the stuff that we cover, but it goes much deeper.
Thank you, Bob, for your time. I really appreciate you coming to my podcast today and sharing your knowledge and expertise. Have a good day.
You too, Will. Thank you.